Dreams and visions scattered, and you're broken inside. You don't have to stay in the shape that you're in. The potter wants to put you back together again. Oh, the potter wants to put you back together again. In case your situation has turned upside down and all your dreams accomplished and now on the ground, you don't have to stay in the shape that you're in. Oh, the power wants to put you back together again. Oh, the power wants to put you back together again. You who are broken, stop by the potter's house. You who need mending, stop by the potter's house. Give him the fragments of your broken life, my friend. The potter wants to put you back together again. Oh, the potter wants to put you back together again. You who are broken, stop by the potter's house. You need mending, yeah. Stop by the potter's house. Give him the fragments, oh yeah, broken life, my friend. The potter wants to put you back together again. Oh, the potter wants to put you back together again. Joy, joy in the potter's house. Joy, joy in the potter's house. Oh, peace in the potter's house. Oh, from my thirsty soul. Peace in the potter's house. Love in the potter's house. Oh, yes, I know there is love in the potter's house. Thank God for salvation. In the potter's house. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. There is salvation in the potter's house. There is healing in the potter's house. Oh, salvation and healing. There is healing in the potter's house. Thank God for deliverance. There is deliverance in the potter's house. Yes, I know. Peace and joy and love and healing in the potter's house. Everything you need in the potter's house. Everything you you back together again.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome everybody to Sunday Night Live once again. I hope you guys had a wonderful Sunday. And here we are. We are here yet another Sunday, and I'd just like to say you're very, very welcome. We're studying an interesting book in today's Sunday Night Live. It's not really a study. We're more or less going to chat about it. It's the book for this season titled Thou Shall Prosper. It's an interesting book, and I hope that you guys, after this conversation, you'll be, interested in taking a look at this very interesting book. Let me even have it here. This is Thou Shall Prosper. It's a book written by a Rabbi Daniel Lapin. What is this book about? It's about prosperity, but prosperity not in only the way that you know it. Yes, it's not only about money, how we prosper, but then there's prosperity, prosperity even in your health, your mental health, in your state of well-being, all the things that are good in life, all the things that you can acquire, health, your mind, your body, your soul, everything is working in order. It's a blessing from God. It's prosperity. And the Bible has said that we need to prosper in all things. Hallelujah. So, today I have with me Dr. Pastor Mark Osai-Giehon, and I have with me Ransom as well, who will be, joining me in this little chat about Thou Shall Prosper. Can I get you guys to come on in and just welcome the folks in today?
Hi, good evening. What a great time. Thanks, Ruby, for hosting us tonight.
Yes. And Ransom, anything for the viewers? Yes.
Good evening, everyone, wherever you are.
Good evening.
Apart from you are YouTube, Facebook, Zoom.
Great. Okay, so today, like we said, it's going to be a conversation. So for our viewers, have you read the book Thou Shalt Prosper before? Let us know in the comment chats if you have and what you actually found really interesting about this book. I'm still reading it, and it's a whole wealth of knowledge, honestly, especially with the finances. Some people may come across the topic of finances and be like, oh, we shouldn't talk much about money. And sometimes it's like this unwritten, there's this unwritten thing about money being a taboo topic. And I think that's not really right. And I don't think that's very biblical. The Bible did say that the love of money is the root of all evil. And so that is where that evil is coming. That's where that stigma is coming from. If you understand what the scripture says, it says the love of money, not saying that money is irrelevant. And the Bible has actually said that money is super important, actually. And this is why I'm sure a person like Dr. Labin, Daniel Labin, Rabbi Labin would write this book. So yes, if you have read this book, let us know and let me know your thoughts. In the meantime, before I even ask any questions, just to perhaps get conversation rolling, I would like to even ask the people who are here with me. Ransom, have you read the book before, or are you currently reading the book? What are your thoughts?
Well, I am currently reading the book, and I was telling a few people earlier today how important it is to follow instructions where you are being planted. But ordinarily, I wouldn't have, if I saw this book in a bookshop, I would not pick it, to be honest. Because when you say rabbi, what comes to my head is a Jew. And I'm thinking, I may not be able to understand a Jew, whatever it is he wants to talk about. But then I came to church one of those days and I hear the pastor has instructed, let's, read this book. This is the book we're reading for the month. And I'm like, okay, I'll get a copy. And I had it in my bag for quite a while, and I just kept hoping I'll have one free time to, read. Then I read through the introduction, and man, it captured me, and I've been. It's an yeah.
Wow. 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 And what stand out to you? Like, what's so interesting about it?
Well, for me, I am seeing myself in literally every page.
Wow.
But
Wow.
in fact, to be honest, the day I was reading, I think I was maybe half. I was, when you are reading something, but you're just going through the motions, so to say, you're just going through the page, and then the first point that hit me, at the time I was not an issue, but sort of someone I had, helped do several things, was having issues with my charging for a particular service that I render.
Okay. Okay.
I used words that were making me feel, what's the thought? Feel unworthy of, of charging for services that I render. I mean, I've done several things in the past that I didn't charge for, and then I say, oh, I'm charging for this, I'm charging, and then it's now a problem. So at a point I was considering, oh, did I make a right move? And then I read the book, I'm like, oh man, this is me right here. So it's speaking to me. Yeah, it's speaking to me. One book I know I'll have for a very long time.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You know,
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Pastor Mark, what are your thoughts on the book? I'm sure you've read this book inside and out and in,
Well, interestingly, I mean, look at the book, and mine is
wow. Okay, I need to get my book looking like yours. Mine is too clean.
It's the notes and all of that, and all of that. So yeah, I can't even remember how I got to know the book. Thinking about it, either someone told me about it, or somebody gave me. I can't remember exactly how I got it, but I've had it for many years. And I read most of it, and I read it from time to time. But I just discovered a few weeks ago, like we tried about last week, I actually read the last chapter, which is what we were looking at today. So the book, I think, like Ransom said, at first glance, Rabbi, but when you see one of the things that you come to appreciate is that, of course, Jesus was a Jew. Our Lord Jesus Christ was a Jew, and from the Jewish culture, the Abraham and all the way down to the law of Moses, that is the foundation. And Christ came to fulfill the law. So in so many ways, we have a lot to learn from them, because the Old Testament, I mean, largely speaking, we share the Old Testament, largely speaking. So there's a lot to learn from them. A lot of the principles, are the same. Of course, when Christ came, he made it very clear that, of course, the salvation Messiah had come to fulfill all that was written inside there. So the book is very interesting. And then another reason why the book has to be captivating is because, as you know, the Jews are by far the most singularly successful group of people in the world. They're one of the smallest in terms of their population is so tiny compared to everyone else in the world. Thanks to Hitler, who wiped out a significant number of the Jews. And even before then, they've had the Spanish Inquisition. They've many attacks against them, but they are the most singularly successful. It's amazing. If you look at the number of Nobel Prize winners, a significant proportion of them are Jews. And so the question you have to, we do think about, and the book also addresses, is it because of the covenants, the Abrahamic covenants, or is there something about them? But as we know, it's a mix of both. There's Abrahamic covenant, obviously, which we also enjoy. We enjoy both the Abrahamic covenant as well as the new covenant. But at the same time, it's the practice that they have developed over the centuries, a culture, and that together, because one thing to have a covenant, but if you don't walk the covenant, if you don't walk by the covenant, then it necessarily wouldn't produce. It's not automatic. So that's one of the reasons why it's so fascinating to see, understand, from the culture, from your teaching, and of course, when you now go inside, like Naranjo said, it's just scriptural. The scripture is all based on scriptures, and then we also see their practice, how they practice this, and so that for us, for us, and reading that book, that's part of what we really gain by it. So it's a fascinating book. It's a fascinating.
Oh yeah. I mean, just even the titles alone, like when you're reading through a book, and just the title alone is almost like, it catches your attention. I'm just going to read them out, and we'll, have a little chat and an overview of all the chapters, just to discuss about it. The first, in fact, the book is basically broken down into 10 commandments. So thou shalt prosper, 10 commandments. Number 1, believe in the dignity and morality of business. Wow. Is there morality in business?
So interesting. Believe in the morality of business. For us who are believers, there must be morality. In fact, I remember I went to, I was in somewhere in the Far East many years ago, and one of the things that we had some sessions with business people out there, some of the most richest people in that part of the world, and they were sharing how they make, they're not Jews, they're Christians, they're believers, but and they make morality doing business. They are what they were even sharing how they don't like to do business in some other countries. They mentioned 1 or 2 countries in Asia where the corruption is so rife that they don't like doing business there. So there is morality in business. Clearly, there is morality. There should be morality in business. And for us who are believers, everything has to be righteous and holy. What the others will call morality is more morals to those outside, but inside, holiness and righteousness and doing everything perfectly well. So for we can't but not do everything. And so is it morality and business, can the two go together? Yes.
Okay. And I feel like from Rabbi Daniel's perspective, it's almost like, in business there needs to be that level of trust, and the way you do things, the way you do things should
has to be trust.
Yes, there has to be trust. There needs to be a level of goodwill, even in the way you do business as well. And I feel like that's an idea that not many of us practice, because it's almost like business seems like a very big competition. So one business is competing against the other. But even the idea of providing a service for people who are in need, so who need this, I feel like maybe morality was coming from that point of view, right? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Indeed. And I think part of the reason why that conversation is important, because some people believe that business is just bad. Don't go there. Some believers also believe that politics is bad. Don't go there. We have to go to those places, but we have to do it, the kingdom way.
The kingdom way, dignity and morality. I quite like that. So I'm going to go over into the second chapter in this book, just an overview. By the way, in case you guys think we're going very fast, not to worry. We're going to talk about this. We'll break it down a little bit more next week. So yes, back to chapter 2. The second commandment: extend the network of your connectedness to many people. That sounds like networking. But how is this this is something that people already do. So for those who probably, I'll just put that to you guys. This is something people already do. So why is this important to prosperity?
Before I say something about that, I want to a little back to the plot, the structure of the book.
Okay, yeah.
Long ago, I learned one of the easiest way to learn about a thing is to know what it is not.
Okay.
What is not, especially when you're reading the scripture,
Mm.
it would do you good to take a step back and check what it is not saying. When you are sure what is not saying, what it is not, then when you hear what it is, you would appreciate it better. I think that was what he did in the introduction when he talked about the myths about the Jews. To be honest, if I were asked an opinion of the Jews before now, the Jews as of today, my opinion was that they were manipulative people. Yeah, just some time ago, as very recently, when I heard, I got some teachings about them. The description was if a Jew steps into where you are, for example, let's say you are the king, so to say, in a particular sphere, maybe in business, in your area of business, and then he just stays around. He's trying to learn what is going on and everything. After a while, it's almost like he says, let me just have a little seat with you. So it's almost like you have a chair, you're seated on a chair, and you just give him a little space where he puts his butt to just balance for a while. I mean, he's been around. And the next thing you know, you are moving further away from the chair. And before you know it, he's the one on the chair. That they had this, the statement was they had this consciousness that the world was will to them. So any sphere you want to talk about, except they don't have an interest in it, if they put an interest in it, and you are there with
it, yeah,
they are pushing you out. That's what I had in mind. But then when I read these myths and I saw, of course, these were things I've heard before, and then the correction he gave to them, it further opened my heart to receive the book. Talking about the second chapter that you spoke about, he shared a story about a rabbi friend of his where he had come to meet him to say he wanted to do a particular kind of business, but he was kind of scared because it involving the people in his congregation and friends and family and all of that. And one of the things he told him is if you, I think one of the statements he said is, if what you are about to do, you can share with the people, to be considered whether you should be doing it at all. Because when you have people...
Sorry, Ransom, could you say that again? Because I think you fell silent for just a bit, on and off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go on, yeah.
A rabbi friend of his had met him to talk about a business that he wanted to do, but he was scared about business because it involved talking to, other people to get them on board. And then he told him, if you're having issues talking, these are your friends, these are your congregants, people that you are close to. If you have a problem advertising what you do to them, then you should be considering whether you actually are supposed to be doing it. Your business prospers. Part of your prosperity is in your connection, because scripturally speaking, charity begins at home. You don't go out talking about what you can do when people who are around you, your best of friends, do not know what you're doing. They do not know what business you are involved in. It is how well you have done with the people who know you that they move you out by word of mouth, and they say, my friend does this, and he does it very well. That one tells another, and like that, he keeps doing. Yeah. Now I can.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. That's very important. So, Pastor Mark, what do you think about this second commandment as well?
No, thank you so much for that. And I think just being up on what Ransom said and what he said, you asked a question whether that sounds like networking.
Yes.
I think most and networking. In terms of you have networks, you have all types of things. People go to places just for network. But what's interesting here is first of all the principle that people is wealth. The more people you know, and the more people generally, not just wealth, but it's actually the more people you know, the more the more comfortable the more helped you are, because it means amongst a whole lot of network. So I think that's the general concept. And that's very powerful. The more people you know, the more you're set up for success in life. Of course, you may not have to know all the people yourself, but the more people you know that know other people, that whole widening circle, then the sort of success. But what's also interesting is that from years back, when I was thinking about this concept, I was telling some people that it was a unique environment that I believe more in net weaving rather than networking.
Net weaving.
Net weaving. It was a concept I came up with, net weaving rather than networking. And so when I read this chapter, that really resonated with me, because in some way, networking sounds as if it's like a shark-like thing. I want to network so I can get things out of people, that for some people, that network is just about what can I get out? I can now meet somebody who can help me or something Whereas the concept in the chapter 2 is slightly different from that. It's actually the point of being connected to people is not for selfish reasons, it's just being connected to people, know more people, be helpful to more people, and then in the midst of all that, you begin to see connections and opportunities, for everyone. So I think that was a good balancing of that normal concept of network is so let me go to that place and network so I can see the species that people, and then I can get on in life. But whereas the concept here is slightly different from that. So yeah, interesting. But the bottom line is the more people you know, the more you are set up for success. Very sound.
Honestly, very sound. It's a very sound commandment, honestly, because even for me as well, I believe in the value of people. I think if you invest in people, you will get returns. You will get even, that's one of the, after finance, after your money investments, for those who are into stocks and exchange rates and all that, the next sort of investment that I think is worth your while, is also investment in people. That's how you invest in your children's education, you invest in yourself, and also the next thing is you invest in others, you help others. And the interesting thing about investing in people is that you never know when the returns come, but it will come, but it's not even in the way you would expect it. And I think there's that element of how do I put it? And I think that's where networking can be different from, like Pastor Mark just gave us now a new term, net weaving. When you're networking, which is by all means, please, networking is also a very good way of extending your business abilities. But with networking, is more of what you can gain from them. Am I right? Just let me know if I'm networking is all about what you can get from the person. And so that's the attitude and the mindset you use when you go to a networking event. But when you're thinking of really connecting with people and investing in people, net weaving, as Pastor Mark would say, is beyond what you can get from the person. It's beyond what you can gain, but it's about you pouring in. And that's where the returns are, even in ways that you would never expect. Why? Because you didn't expect anything in return. And I think that authentic and genuine nature of connecting with people can tell. People tell, when someone is coming to you because they want something, and when it's not, there's nothing in return. And in some ways, people respond to that, you're not expecting anything from me, with so much grace. And, they just naturally are drawn to you. And I think that's the beauty of just investing in people, because you want to pour out on them, So yeah, I particularly really like that chapter. Very interesting. Is there anything anyone wants to say? Yes, Ransom, please go for it.
That chapter 2 that I've been, I had thought about it. To be honest, I had told myself, man, I won't be somewhere around here, because it isn't much fun for the old around here, in my opinion, compared to other places like where I come from. And so the chapter 2, somewhere he says, stay connected to others, you'll be happier and live longer. And a clear example of that is my grandmother. She's in her 80s. She'll be 85 this year. And I noticed she retired probably when she was almost 70. And the last 10, 15 years, what she's done, basically, she spent some time in the village where she has women activities and several other. She's quite an active person. And then after a while, sometime maybe after every 2 years, she comes out and she's around, grandchildren and great grandchildren, babysitting, running around with them and all of that. I've noticed significantly, it's almost like each time she goes on those trips and she comes back, it's almost like there's an additional 10 years to her life. She's
Wow.
she's a very active person. So I noticed that the connectedness she has with this is family, and of course in the community she has things to do, keeps her going, and we don't feel very bad. Like back at home now, not many of us are around her. She's almost alone some of the time, but there are things, there are people, there are friends of her age that she goes visiting. They go for community meeting, they go to church activities and all of that. So there's something to keep on going. But a lot of the people elsewhere, they are withdrawn. I mean, the older you get, once the kids are out of the house, it's almost just you and the television. And soon enough, the person is thinking, what am I even doing here? And they're wanting to just go relax. So yes, in our bid to connect, let's connect genuinely, because some of these connections are things that we need at times when the days are gloomy. People, I mean, someone that is always connected to people, someone from nowhere, God will just drop it in the person's heart. Call this person, and then they call you and they share something. I mean, you are literally, oh my God, I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's the way I want to age with grace, and always looking younger as I get older, please.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So as you can see, we've not even gone to the end. So now we've got the third commandment: get to know yourself. Have you guys read this chapter? What were your thoughts on it, Pastor Mark?
Well, interesting. I think it's a very interesting concept, and it's also an intriguing concept because, I mean, by definition, you would assume that we all know ourselves.
True.
By definition, you assume, but actually, in reality, as you're going to explore this commandment better, and then there's also a book, or rather, it's a book. Actually, there's one I would also recommend. It's Peter, what's his name now? I don't remember his surname now, but he wrote some of the greatest books on concepts on management. The father of management. I remember his name in it right now. And so one of the things he said, and which aligns with this book, is this commandment of this chapter, is the fact that we don't actually know ourselves as best as we ought to know ourselves. We need to study ourselves, study our ways, and of course, being believers, children of God, is to study how God works with us and how we work with God. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know how you operate, know your times and seasons, and then counterintuitively, someone normally they would say, work on your weaknesses, but counterintuitively, the concept usually is, of course, be aware of weaknesses, and the ones that are really, problematic, work on them. But in reality, you should work on your strengths. Work on your strengths, and play on your strength, because that's where your strength is. Of course, if you have a weakness that is that could be fake, it could be very, very damaging. Obviously, you must work on it. But fundamentally, the concept is you've got to know yourself. You've got to see how you operate, how things work with you. Then you of course know yourself. It also talks about your skills, how you operate. Even I'm mixing this now with Peter Drucker. Yes, that was the name I was thinking of, Peter Drucker. Know how you operate, how you function. How do you study? For example, some of these, we all study. How do you study best? So all of those things is a key factor to being fulfilled in life, because the more you know yourself and you know how to operate, and then you do more of that, more of those things, then you live a fulfilled and successful life. That for me is a general concept, of that principle. Yeah.
I mean, I have a follow-up question of that. So how does getting to know yourself influence your business, influence your, service that you're rendering to people?
So let me jump in on that.
Yeah.
I'll share a little bit of story. In my primary and secondary, I came to university when I had my first degree with the same notions. But what I didn't know at the time was I was able to do well because I paid more attention in classes. The teachers they actually taught, what they do in the university is more or less they throw you, what's the word? More like buzzwords, things that you need to go look up and study further. But in primary, secondary school, they break down concepts. If they're solving mathematics, for example, the teacher solves 1-2 examples, and then if you're able to follow step by step, you can continue. And even when it gets harder, by that I mean the blocks are being built upon. But in the university, it felt like they give you step 1 and they jump to 6. You're supposed to figure 2 to 5, and then before you connect 6. And I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
Cool. And I struggled for a while because I kept on going for different lectures, and it's almost like you're doing several courses. This teacher is pulling you that way, that one is pulling this way, and all of that. But towards the close of my studying time in the university, I discovered that there's such a thing called tactile learner. I didn't know there was a word like that. They learn by, seeing things work before them. And, they like to. I'm able to work, maybe not even physically in my head. I'm able to figure out, this is what we're talking about. I relate better and I do better. And fellow students who understood the courses better were able to break it down in that manner for me. And so some of the courses I struggled passing, 1-2 times. The third time when I passed it was a student. I said, this is what this course is really about. In fact, there was a course on the topic is on heat. The laws of thermodynamics. I had issues, and this time I went to help a professor that done with were born. And right there in the fire, he explained the 3 laws. Like we were gisting, basically having a chat, but it almost like opened my eyes to see this is what all of the story they are talking about in this are. So knowing yourself would increase your productivity. I mean, you work better at night. There's no business trying to kill yourself working in the day. All you do the little you can in the day, rest your head. And at night, when you know this is my best time, this is my productive time, you put in your effort and do the work then. If you know yourself, there are so many things. I mean, when a job comes that, I can't handle this, or I wouldn't have enough time to get this through, you're able to say, based on so and so, the way I've worked before now, this would be difficult to deliver within this time. I will need this much time and all of that. And some of those other things. So knowing yourself is about, over time, you have been able to discover this is how I do this. This is how best this works for me. And I'm capitalizing on this strength, like Pastor Mark said, and you get to do more. Even in exams, we advise sometimes where a lot of students spend time trying to solve the hard questions. And by the time they are done figuring it out, they don't have time for the simple ones. So what you do, you start with the ones that, if I don't, skip to the next one that you understand. When you are done with the ones that are easy, that you would have covered a huge part. If you studied, that should be the practice. And then you can the ones that were seeming difficult. Now you discover sometimes that in solving the ones that were easy, you would have gotten some clues to be able to help out with the difficult ones. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I think you both have, you've honestly, we've not even, for if you've not read, this book, I mean, I'm sure you have a good picture, but I'm telling you, what Rabbi Daniel Lappin writes in this book, it's gold. You're better off reading this book, honestly. This review won't give you full justice, I think just before we round up this session today, and just to give you guys a little teaser, we'll go to the chapter 4. So that's the 4th commandment of this book, which is do not pursue perfection. And I think this chapter really resonates with me strongly because I'm an artist, I'm a creative, and sometimes some of us, I don't know if people can relate. Some of us try to be so perfect in the design or in one angle or something that you're making or creating. And sometimes when it's not perfect, we get bogged down, all the emotions everything is just falling apart because you can't get one thing. And like a word that you use, ransom, productivity, you end up losing productivity. So this chapter 4, the 4th commandment says, do not pursue perfection. That in itself, just reading that is like, wow. So if you don't pursue perfection, what should you pursue? That's now out of to
Excellent.
Excellence.
The principle there that is introduced is that life is not perfect, and only God is perfect. And the striving for perfection will lead to grief because it's not going to. But rather, what we should live for and the standard we should give ourselves is strive for excellence. Excellence. And what's excellent is something very impressive. The best are around that we can see. And something that fulfills its purpose. So excellence is what we are called to, and that's very, very encouraging. Like you say, trying to be perfect can be very, very, should I call it griefing? Can become very, cause a lot of grief. Why did I do that? But with that excellence, then you can even learn to forgive yourself and to look forward to a fresh start and realizing that one error, one mistake is not the end of the game. The game still goes on. So that's powerful.
Yeah, honestly, and it's so important, when you're striving for excellence. So striving for excellence is it's like it's an ongoing thing. It's like your excellence is being better, doing better than what you were doing before. So it's that constant improvement, striving for excellence. So it means that there's always a higher bar to achieve excellence. And it's something that you gradually walk into, as opposed to perfection where everything must be perfect, which is almost going against the natural, trend of things. Yeah. And or like you said, causing so much grief. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Ransom, do you have anything to say on that topic?
And well, the sad thing about it is people that pursue perfection, the story end well sometimes. I mean, I know of this story I read some years back. In fact, I was a time in my life where a lot of things were going wrong, and I don't know, for some reason, I grew up with my grandma, and we have lots of good times and wonderful times. So I tend to talk about her a lot. On this day, there was I was going through a phase in my life, and she kept nudging me, and there were so many things that were said in that period, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm doing the best I can. I mean, I'm not the first that is going through this. I definitely won't be the last. I mean, I got to that point where if very well, it's almost like you would say I'm nonchalant. But what had happened is I had realized that I am doing the best I can at this moment. And the only way to keep my sanity is to not be worried about it like every other. I mean, everybody expects you should be worrying. You're supposed to be in school and you're not in school yet. You should be worried about it. There's no reason wasting that energy. And so I said some things. I'm like, I will not kill myself because, this is not working. It works when it works. And I went away. And I think she had read a devotional this morning and that morning. And then she read, there was I think a Zimbabwean medical student that failed an exam, and very intelligent, that had passed several exams and then failed this particular one that was supposed to move him to the next phase. And then the next thing he did was, commit suicide and left a note saying he feels worthless, that he couldn't, pass the exams. And I'm like, this is a waste of life that could, very precious, that could have made a lot of impact. And so when you understand, like Pastor Mark said, that the world in itself is not perfect, your best laid can be messed up in seconds. You have everything in your head figured out. You have dotted your I's, crossed all your T's. You expect that all of this, there could just be just one little thing unrelated that unsettles the whole thing. But knowing that you are pursuing excellence would help you quickly readjust, reconfigure, do whatever it is. You use the Google map. Sometimes you're going somewhere and then you miss your turn. It's almost like in seconds, it recalculates. There's always, you will still get to where you are going eventually, but not the way you planned it. Yeah. And that our lives are in God's hands, and He has the times, He has the plans. With every of these challenges that you are not able to attain perfection, that you have set for yourself, by the way, because God is not the one setting that. Yes, there's a certain expectation of His for you, but some of these ones that we set for ourselves want everything to be, like this, like that, like that. If you understand that our times are in His hands, then when there are, wrong turns or crossroads, you will learn to depend on Him more to be able to reconfigure, redirect, and still bring you to that expected end.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much, Pastor Mark. Thank you, Pastor Mark. Thank you, Ransom, for joining me on this conversation. As you can see, thou shalt prosper. This book is loaded. Amen. Honestly, it's loaded. So please grab your copy now, okay? As you can see, there's a lot of these gems, they apply to business, but not just business. It's your life in general. Prosperity in living and actually enjoying the wealth that you create, So that's us for tonight, but I will be seeing you next week, and we'll be continuing this conversation. We'll go through the remaining chapters, and I'll bring also very learned gentlemen as well to hold this conversation. And I hope that you enjoyed today. As I said, leave comments down below. What did you learn from the book of Thou Shalt Prosper, if you've read it? And until next week, my name is Orubi Edmond Tambabo, and I was your host at Sunday Night Live. Take care and have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.